Hello everyone. In this class, we will learn about transaction isolation levels. A database is a shared resource among multiple users, and MySQL allows concurrent access through multiple threads. Therefore, users can execute different transactions using different threads to ensure that these transactions do not interfere with each other. Setting the transaction isolation level is essential. There are 4 transaction isolation levels in MySQL. Read uncommitted, read committed, repeatable read, and serializable. Below, we will provide a detailed explanation of the characteristics, issues, and solutions associated with each isolation level. 1. Read uncommitted. It is the lowest isolation level in transactions. The characteristic of this isolation level is that it allows dirty reads, which means a transaction can read data that has been modified by another transaction but not yet committed. To address the issue of dirty reads, the isolation level can be raised to read committed, which avoids reading uncommitted data. In practical applications, dirty reads can cause many problems and, unless there are specific reasons, this isolation level is rarely used to ensure data consistency. 2. Read committed. Read committed is the default isolation level for most DBMS, such as SQL Server and Oracle, but not for MySQL. The characteristic of this isolation level is that it avoids dirty reads, but it can result in non-repeatable reads. Non-repeatable reads refer to the situation where within a single transaction, multiple queries of the same data yield inconsistent results due to changes made to the data during the querying process. To address non-repeatable reads, the isolation level can be raised to repeatable read or higher. 3. Repeatable read. Repeatable read is the default transaction isolation level for MySQL. The characteristic of this isolation level is that it avoids dirty reads and non-repeatable reads. However, it may theoretically experience phantom reads. Phantom reads refer to the phenomenon where within a single transaction, 2 queries yield different numbers of data records. What is the difference between phantom reads and non-repeatable reads? The similarity is that both occur during 2 consecutive query processes. The difference between them is that phantom reads involve an increase in the number of rows due to insertions made by other transactions. MySQL's InnoDB storage engine solves the issue of phantom reads through the use of multi-version concurrency control mechanism. 4th, serializable. It is the highest isolation level in transactions. The characteristic of the serializable isolation level is that it can prevent issues of dirty reads, non-repeatable reads, and phantom reads. However, due to the fact that this isolation level locks each data row for every read to prevent conflicts, it can result in timeouts and lock contention, making it the lowest performing isolation level, unless there is a specific need for data stability and the requirement to minimize concurrency. This isolation level is generally not used in typical scenarios. MySQL provides several different ways to view isolation levels. The specific method to be used for querying depends on the actual requirements. 1. Global isolation level. It affects all users connecting to MySQL. Select at global.transaction. Underline isolation. 2. Isolation level in the current session. It only affects the user currently logged into the MySQL server and does not affect other users. Select at session.transaction. Underline isolation. 3. Isolation level for the next transaction. It only affects the next transaction operation of the current user. Select at transaction underline isolation. You can modify the isolation level in MySQL using the set statement. The syntax is as follows. Set session vertical line, global transaction isolation level parameter underline value. Here, session represents the current session. Global represents the global level, and omitting them indicates setting the isolation level for the next transaction. Transaction refers to the transaction. Isolation refers to the isolation. And level refers to the level. The parameter underline value can be one of the 4 MySQL isolation levels mentioned on the screen, including repeatable read default, read uncommitted, read committed, and serializable. The example requires modifying the isolation level of the current session to read committed. The modification statement used is set session transaction isolation level read committed. The execution result is shown on the screen. Next, we will run a select statement to check if the isolation level has been successfully modified. The viewing statement used is select at session.transaction underline isolation. From the screenshot of the result, we can see that the isolation level of the current session has been modified to read committed. True or false questions. First, the global isolation level of a transaction affects the current user. Answer: false. Second, the isolation level of the current session only affects the currently logged in user. Answer: true. Multiple choice questions. Select one answer choice. First, the default access mode for MySQL transactions is A. Read-write. B. Read-only. C. Write-only. D. None of the above is correct. Second, among the 4 isolation levels in MySQL, the lowest isolation effect is found in B. A. Repeatable read. B. Read uncommitted. C. Serializable. D. Read committed. Third, among the 4 isolation levels in MySQL, the lowest performance is observed in C. Serializable. A. Repeatable read. B. Read uncommitted. C. Serializable. D. Read committed. Fill in the blanks questions. Fill in the blanks. First, the command to view the global isolation level of a transaction is select at global.transaction underline isolation. Second, the command to view the isolation level of the current session is select at session.transaction underline isolation. Third, the default isolation level in MySQL is repeatable read. Short answer questions. First, please set the transaction isolation level of the session to read uncommitted. Correct answer: set session transaction isolation level read uncommitted. Second, please briefly analyze the characteristics of the 4 isolation levels in MySQL. Correct answer: read uncommitted is the lowest level in transactions, allowing the reading of uncommitted data from other transactions, which leads to potential dirty reads. Read committed only allows reading of data that has been committed by other transactions, avoiding dirty reads. But it may still have non-repeatable read issues. Repeatable read solves the problems of dirty reads and non-repeatable reads, ensuring that within the same transaction, multiple reads will yield the same results. Serializable solves the issues of dirty reads, non-repeatable reads, and phantom reads, but it has the lowest performance among the 4 levels. In this lesson, we introduced the 4 isolation levels of transactions, and how to view and modify the isolation level. We hope that students have gained a good understanding and mastery of these concepts. Thank you, everyone.